So when we're talking about distance and motion questions, some of my favorite ones that are presented on an AP test are ones that are presented in a very visual fashion. So often what will happen on an AP test is they'll give you something about velocity or position, but they'll do it in a graphing way. So you have a picture that represents often the velocity of something moving. It can be a car moving, it can be a plane moving. I've even seen ones where the picture was like a spider moving up and down a web. So here's the first one that I've seen. And so this one is looking at the velocity of a car. I don't have units here. Let's just say we're working in miles per hour. And it wants to know the total distance and the net distance traveled during the 8-hour period. So when you're looking at something like this, you want to think of everything above the axis as moving in one direction, like moving to the right. So all of this is my car traveling one direction. Here's where my car turns around because I have a change in sign of my velocity. And then from that point on, my car is basically backtracking and going in the opposite direction. So from 0 to 5 hours, I'm heading one way. All of a sudden, I do a U turn. I must have forgot something. And then from 5 hours to 8 hours, I'm going the other direction. So to find my distance traveled, whether it's total or net, I'm going to have to use my geometry knowledge to break this up and find area of these figures. So for the first one, and it's totally up to you how you break it up. If it's easier for you, you can break this one up into a rectangle with a triangle in the beginning and a triangle in the end. Just make sure you watch your units. So this first rectangle, 1/2, my base is 2. My height is actually 40. So that gives me 40. So that'd be 40 miles traveled. And then from 2 to 4, it's 2 by 40, so that's 80 miles traveled. And then from 4 to 5, it's 1/2 base times height, which is 20. So I've gone 40, 80, and 20. I've got 140 miles basically like in one direction. And then I look at this triangle, 1/2 base times height. My base is 1, 2, 3. Height is 40. It is going to be negative. So I end up getting 60 miles this direction. So my total distance traveled, it's called distance total, would be 200 miles. And then my net distance traveled would be 80 because 60 of those miles I was backtracking. Now let's talk some other questions that I could ask. I could also ask you about the acceleration of my car at any time. So my acceleration is going to be the slope of the velocity. So let's say I ask for the acceleration at a particular time. So let's say I did the acceleration at the 1 hour mark. So my acceleration at the 1 hour mark would be the slope of that segment where 1 hour is. So my slope is rise over run. I go up 40 over 2. So my slope is 20. My unit will be miles per hour or miles per hour squared. If I would ask about the acceleration between 2 and 4, you would say I have acceleration of 0 because my slope is 0. The only places that I can't ask about acceleration are anywhere I have a sharp point because we say it's not differentiable. So I couldn't ask you about the acceleration at 2 or 4 or 6, for example. If you have a negative slope, then that means you have a negative acceleration. So it is possible in this little stretch to say that I have a negative slope, so my acceleration would be negative. So those are the types of questions that they could ask in a visual standpoint. Let me show you another one that seems to defy all laws of physics here. So this is a car's velocity. This one's in kilometers. So we're looking at kilometers per hour over a 16-hour period. Here's what I mean by defies all laws of physics. I have no idea what's going on here. Like all of a sudden we were going 60 kilometers per hour and then we're going 30 kilometers per hour. And I also have no idea how we go from 30 kilometers per hour to 90 kilometers per hour like instantaneously, but we're not gonna worry about it. We're gonna kind of hold off on our total reality here. So when we talk about distance here, you'll notice this one only mentions total distance. The reason this one only mentions total distance is because total and net would be the same here because I'm never turning around. I am above the x-axis the entire time. So whatever direction I started moving, I just stuck with it. To find this, I'm going to break it down into shapes. So I have a triangle, 1/2 base times height. So my base is 4, base is 4, and my height is 60. So I get 120 kilometers there. And then I have a rectangle that's 4 by 30, so I get another 120. And then from 8 to 16, if you want, you can do it as a trapezoid. So 1/2, my height is 90, and my bases are 8 and 4. So I get 540. So add all that up, 5, 6, 7, excuse me, 780 kilometers is the total distance that I've traveled over that 16-hour period. If it would ask something like your average value, like your average velocity, you could divide that by 16, and that would give you that average height or that average velocity by doing an average value. If it asks you for acceleration, again, you could find slope. You have multiple places here. We have a slope of 0, so we'd have a 0 acceleration here, 0 acceleration here. The only places that they cannot ask you about acceleration, again, your sharp points and also your vertical places, because that would be undefined slope. So nothing's going to be asked about your acceleration at 4 or at 8, for example. But basically anywhere else on there, I could ask that question. There is a sharp point at 12, so I guess those would be the 3 places. So those are your visual-based questions, giving you a velocity graph and asking you about distance and asking you about acceleration and what we know over that time period.